there's a hole in the concrete layer that's there. And then if there's wet outside, is there going to be water coming on the inside of that and sort of filling in, and it makes a sort of pool underneath, and then when it gets hot, that's where the bad smell is, and then it begins to sort of gently steam or evaporate, and then that touches the undersides of the wooden boards, and then that's just, well, take a spore when you walk outside and walk in with your shoes on, or take your shoes off or whatnot. It just takes one time, one spore, that hits in, there it is, and then it'll begin to grow happily in that type of environment with a constant steam or vapor, and then it acts on condensation, and that's interesting. And then yes, you may be able to fix one side of the house but not the other if you've sold or done anything else. Do you see what I mean? So that becomes an issue as well that's not been thought up. I think that if somebody else owns a house, one side, and one person rents a house and it belongs to someone else, you can throw as much as you want into the problem, but it's unless you can do the whole entirety of the whoever shares the slab, let's say, unless they are separate but they're not, so that would need treating on both sides in order for it to be effective long term. So that can become an issue. And then a way to deal with that, yes, go down and seal it up, but if it's already cracking, it's going to need some level of anchoring in at one side and anchoring in at another side in order to stop it from pulling apart again. Do you see what I mean? A sort of anchor point going all the way across, I don't know, stitch if you like, and then fill it. That's interesting. Seems like an awful lot of work. You see, because my question is the cavity. It will move to the cavity. And then if you salt it, crystallized, I don't know, a solution that will crystallize. That's if it works. If it shows to really keep the stuff away. Then like a type of spray that's fast drying to the point that it crystals over and underneath all the flooring sort of thing. Would that then sort of really, and if it stays in a crystal form, that's not bad. And then if it ever was to get slightly damp, it would become soluble, but it must be sticky. Sort of fight fire with fire sort of thing. And if anything were to get there in the times that it would not die out, maybe it would dehydrate. Do you sort of see? Yeah, I only did this with some plaster once. I added a lot of salt to it, tons of salt, and it crystallized. The crystals came out in the drying process, but it never suffered with mold. In fact, that one didn't suffer with a lot of stuff, to be fair. And every time it got wet, the salt crystal would dissolve, and then when it dried out, the salt crystal would reappear again. That was in that small piece of plaster that I was trying. It didn't work for the other experiment, but I did notice that thing was quite resilient. But there again, maybe salt feeds it, I don't know. So, but something along this type of process that was detrimental to the fungus that could be sprayed on or put into something so that you want to grow some crystals out of it. So that these things are soluble, so that if it ever got damp or cold or whatever and it became soluble, if a spore ever did land on it, that's when it would have the most impact to stop an infection growing, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know about infection, I said the wrong thing, but you know, infestation is what I meant to say. It stopped the infestation before it ever happened, let's say. It would make it almost impossible for it to grow. something along this line, I think would be very beneficial. It's not the way to fix things, but, and then again, it gives a little bit more time to see how to fix a house that's probably splitting apart underneath the, you know, underneath the floor. I mean, because there's been a lot of damp proofing all the way around and everything, and it's kind of, it hasn't worked to fix the problem because the underlying issue is still apparent. Interesting, still very interesting subject for me, but yeah, there you are. I'm going to leave this one here, 32 minutes worth of that. Whoa.